everyone. So, my name is Katherine, and this is David. Hello. And so we are both employees of Watershed. And Watershed, which is where we're scraping from at the moment, is a cross-art form venue based on Bristol's waterfront, which is really beautiful today. It's really sunny. I'm in the centre of Bristol. We have 3 cinemas, 3 conference centres and a cafe bar, and we provide sort of public space for people to come together and generate ideas, question practice and create wonderful connections with one another. And David and I are part of the Pervasive Media Studio, which is sort of, as you come into Watershed, it's just sort of around the back of Watershed, and is a collaboration between Watershed and the universities of West of England, Bristol. And it's 7 years old. We were 7 years old a couple of weeks ago. And it's a space really that hosts a community of different artists, so creative companies, academics, exploring everything from experience design to creative technology and everything from sort of in between that. So at the moment, we've got some artists in residence who are looking at food and dining experiences, so how they can use digital technology to enhance dining experiences, which is a really great project. I think Dave's going to talk about cuisine and colour in a bit. We've recently had some magicians in residence, which was quite an exciting thing. And we've got other people researching the future of documentary. We've got someone building a mind-controlled beer robot, which is rather fantastic. It's a truck that has, you put on like a baseball cap brain sensor, and you have to think really hard, and then the robot pours you a pint of beer, which is quite exciting. That's what's been happening. And then we also support artists. Been doing lots of beer sampling as part of that making process. And we also support other artists who are doing, I guess, more experimental work. So at the moment, we've got a company called Anagram, who are a really exciting theatre company they come from a documentary background. And they've been doing a piece of work called Door into the Dark, which you should all Google because it's fantastic, which is like an immersive documentary where people go in blindfolded and they hear stories about losing sight or being unable to see. And that's currently, we're supporting them to go out to Tribeca, so they're in New York at the moment, getting quite a lot of really good press. Yeah, so that's sort of a summary of some of the stuff that's happening in the studio right now. So I thought we'd start by talking a little bit about us and where we're from, and then giving you a bit of history about Playable City, which is one of the strands of work that Watershed is really focused on at the minute. And then also talking a little bit about some React case studies, which are, React is the programme of work that I work on, so I'll give you a couple of case studies from there. I'll hand over to David.
Sure. Yeah, it's just a bit of background about where we are both from, what we've come through and how we've got to this point we are now. So it's a bit self-centred, so I'll rush through it as quick as I can. I actually grew up in Mid Wales, in Tywyn, that Bristol area, and I graduated from the University of Aberystwyth in theatre design and scenography, specialising in light design. So ending up down here, I'm not quite sure how it happened, but I did, so there we go. I worked for the university as well for 2 years as a production manager and technical assistant, so I helped out a lot of student-led projects, mainly theatre, and mainly helping get through all their lighting design and rigging and all that sort of technical theatre. I then embarked on a 3-year research project with KES, who are based in Bangor, they're the Knowledge and Enterprise Scholarship Fund, and we get money from the ESF to investigate the digital work within companies and smaller companies in Wales. So it's worth having a look at their website and going through there. But my project was looking at new media and theatrical practice, and it's kind of an interesting part where both Katherine and I were working kind of side by side. I was working for Theatre Genedlaethol Cymru, Welsh Language National Theatre, and Katherine was on the NTW side, and we both had the same sort of job.
And we're both at Watershed now, so...
It's a bit of a weird but yeah, so I'll put a link up, but some of the work I actually created... yeah, it's okay.
It's this one?
Yeah.
So let's do the first link of the Skype. Let's see how this goes.
So one of the projects I worked on there was trying to find a way of getting people to interact with theatre archives in a more playful and more kind of creative method. So what we built was a fruit machine that allows you
Is that working?
I've got a picture, yeah.
Great, that's
right,
what
JPEG, yeah.
Wooden box and a bit of a screen in it. So it's a basic one-arm bandit. So you pull the handle and you get animations. If you win, you get a piece of an archive and you get through that way. So it's kind of engaging with this kind of digital culture and it's just kind of giving the archive a bit more physical form.
Can you get us back there, Simon?
I'm trying.
Oh
Oh dear. This is what happens when you use someone else's computer.
Yeah.
I can carry on really.
Yeah.
So then another project we worked on was with theatre company Aracore, a project called Outsiders, where we got audience members live in the theatre to tweet the actors on stage, and Simon's now really concerned.
There
we go. Yay!
So we got people to communicate to performance on stage, and it was all based around this sort of live element, technology and digital stuff. So yeah, I began working at Watershed in January. On the digital producer level, I actually met Katherine properly, which was really interesting, and then began in January 2014. My kind of role here is to aid all sorts of studio residences with technical inquiries and just help them build things really. Also to kind of identify new technologies for use within our practice or within Watershed. So it's a really varied job, and it's probably one of the best jobs that we can ever really have. Yeah, some of the projects we worked on though, we've worked on various things. So we've done something called Light Histories, which was a collaboration between myself, Watershed, and a gentleman called Arthur Buxton, who Katherine, we may talk about later on, who makes these wonderful drawings of paintings that he abstracts into big circles, and we did LEDs, and we went through Hackspace Core and made a big digital product for there. Done a lot of this stuff, really. I think that's probably enough.
Yeah.
We'll put some links through to you and you can come with them.
So usually David is the first port of call when we've got studio residents who want to do something and they don't know quite how to do it yet. So it's that sort of, and David will go away and Google and do a lot of and search, do a bit of research. So my biog. So I started as a singer way back when. That was obviously a hugely successful career that ended with me very promptly getting a business degree and sort of leaving the performing world quite promptly. And when I did my business degree, I then set up a production company, which was basically letting me freelance for loads of different really cool organisations, but at the same time produce my own work, so things that I found interesting or artists that I found really interesting, to work with them on making cool stuff that often was like in the space where digital technology and creative work were colliding. And so one of the first pieces that I did was a version of Howl's Moving Castle with an artist duo called Davey and Kristen Maguire. I'd send you a link, but I've not got it set up, so you'll just have to search for them later. But their work is really beautiful. And they did a piece of work called The Ice Book, which was like a pop-up book. And as you turn the page, it had back projections on it, and it was all animated. So it was like a 10-minute installation that people could operate themselves and then see this paper book come to life. And so we were really interested in that, and we were also really interested in the story of Howl's Moving Castle, and so we made a theatre piece that did that pop-up book, but on a huge scale in Southwark Playhouse Vaults. And then there was other work, like I did a piece with Curious Directive for the Samuel Beckett Theatre Trust Award, which was using live motion capture for the first time on stage, which was pretty exciting. So we were experimenting with this idea of how you can tell two narratives through the use of digital technology. So, if someone's waving a pen, I have a pen as a prop. So if someone's waving a pen on stage, that in the live motion capture, we could turn that into a sword or into a feather using animation. So we were sort of playing around with those sorts of narrative ideas. And then I got a job at Battersea Arts Centre as digital producer at Battersea Arts Centre, where I started working really directly with emerging artists predominantly, thinking about like having conversations with them about the work that they wanted to make and how we could support them in realising those ambitions on quite a on the ground, rough scale for scratch events. And then I got the job at National Theatre Wales, so I worked with Simon for just under 3 years. So I joined just after the start of year 2, and the digital associate role was a new one for National Theatre Wales. And what attracted me to it was the fact that it was within the creative team. So I was line managed by John McGrath, and that was really exciting because quite often you'd find digital sort of shoehorned into the marketing department, or like not at all in an organisation, or it was never quite in the right place, or in its own department, sort of floating off into the abyss of digital land. And so it was really nice to find a role that was rooted within the creative team. And I think putting the role there was a real statement about how we as an organisation approach digital technology. And so my role was to think creatively about how you could use digital within our productions. So I'm not going to talk really about that too much unless you want to ask questions about it. Some of the productions I worked on were the radicalisation of Bradley Manning, which we live streamed, and watched Coriolanus. The last piece that we did was with the I'm assuming all the Light Trap lads are there in the back. So you can have quite a lot of those were quite a lot of the shows that we worked on that used live streaming were with those guys. And the last production that I worked on was Up Snowdon. So ask them about that when we're not on Skype. I also thought, I guess, about like the wider ideas around digital technology. So how, as an organisation, we could engage with it creatively and sort of encourage ourselves and our artists to take risks. And in a supported way with when they're engaging with technology. And I guess that's really similar to what I'm doing here at Watershed. That element of it is working with the studio residents to think, actually, how can we support you to make what you want to make, but also, how we can make it be the best possible thing that it can be, which I guess is the producer role. So right now I'm sort of rooted within the studio team at Watershed, and I'm also predominantly looking after one project which is called React. And has anyone heard of React? Because it is a collaboration with universities, so... No? Okay, well, brilliant, okay. So React was set up in 2012 and it was funded by the AHRC. And it was a collaboration between Watershed and 5 universities in the southwest. And the idea was to fund collaborations between academic partners and creative organisations that were trying to take risks or innovate in certain areas. So we did that through a sandbox process, which was where we collected together maybe 6 to 7 projects that were all trying to interrogate a certain theme. And those projects we would support through a really intensive R&D process to make a product or service that's related to it. So we did a couple of projects that were around this idea of books and print. We've just finished Play Sandbox, which we did where we co-designed 6 projects in collaboration with 12 6 to 12-year-olds who were running wild in the studio and breaking everything, which was fantastic. So I could recommend working with children. I know it's not the thing. So in the last 3 years, we've connected 385 companies with just under 300 academics. We've invested just under £2 million in 53 projects, so 53 prototypes. And the projects range from Hide, which is an interactive horror installation which uses your biodata to navigate through a maze. So Hide is, you have to wear like heart rate sensors, and you have to calm your heart rate down, and then it unlocks a door, and then you have to basically there's loads of biometric data that you're giving to this installation. A really interesting project called Hide. There's another one which is Kipu, which is an interactive documentary which you do on the web, which is about women and men who were sterilised in Peru in the 1990s, a bit of a hard-hitting subject, to Lightwork, which is a swing that is a bit like, gosh, what is it, when you hit?
The strength things.
Yeah, you know the strength things. I'm not making any sense. At fairs, you hit it and the lights ding and they go ding 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 ding. Does that make sense?
We're all nodding, but we have no idea what it's called.
I can't remember what that's called. But it's like
Yeah.
it's like the swing version of that. So as you swing, it lights up, and then when you swing a certain amount, it triggers a load of really nice music and lights, and it's very fun. It's really playful. And so I guess the thing that I really like about React and working on React is that we don't sort of say, our question is not how can I add digital to a swing? Our question is, what is the future of swings? And I think that's a really interesting place to start from when you're thinking about using digital in your work. So, do you want to talk about robots?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the things we're currently working on, and it's an ongoing collaboration for 3 years, is a project called Being There, and it's about putting artists, technologists, and people who create robots together to try and make some more different products. And it's not thinking of doing C3PO, like this kind of static, very hard.
Like when I heard that we were doing a robot project, I was imagining like Star Wars in the studio. It's not that.
It's not that.
It's better than that.
So one of the things we're doing is working with a lot of universities and their computer science departments in making, well, specific project I'm kind of working with is making an indoor location tracking system from electromagnets. And it sounds absolutely terrifying, but it will find you in a room very, very quickly, and it's just how you use that in public. So that's that sort of project, and there are more details on the internet, but it's still ongoing. We've got a lab in June.
And the interesting thing about that is not like what the technology is, it's how you actually, they've been talking a lot about humanity in robots and how you can give robots a personality and some sort of humanity. So it's not like what technology can we use, it's more actually how can people have a different way of, so that's quite interesting.
Yeah, another project we're currently working on is The Other Way Works, which is a theatre company based in Birmingham, and we're helping them create their third piece for September called Black Tonic, and we're making an interactive card game, which I can't really talk too much about, really, but it'll be an amazing thing. It's just that it gives you complete control over a card table, and you can trigger some things. It's not a very good thing to say.
It's like, we've got the script, we can't tell you about it.
Yes.
Magic comes up quite a lot in the studio because actually when you hide digital really well, it does feel a little bit like magic. So, I'd say.
And kind of one of the other things we're working on, which goes up next week, is a project called Cuisine and Colour, which is one of our pervasive media studio residents called Sabrina, and it's a performance where people are given, would you say liberty? No. They're given control to make a mess and enjoy food.
Yeah.
So it's a dining experience where you wear a bib, a white bib.
Everyone is dressed in white and you wear a white bib and there's a white tablecloth.
And then you eating the food, you create these patterns and colours. And we're working with Sabrina on kind of making a digital exhibition. Digital exhibition within Watershed. So we'll be projection mapping our ceiling and showing people what actually happened. That's that project then, really.
One of the key themes that goes through quite a lot of Watershed's work is this idea of play. And I guess one of the big pieces of work that we've been doing recently is this idea of a playable city. Has anybody heard of Playable City? Really hard because I'm only looking at Simon right now.
No.
Okay. So I'm going to send you another link, and it's a video to a Microsoft 2020 video that I'll get Simon to play. It's really short.
We're watching it now.
Right. Is there sound on it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Are we watching
Hang on,
it?
that might be the wrong one. Are people drawing on windows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Is there sound on it, Simon?
Yeah.
We could probably cut in there if you want to.
Okay.
It's quite long.
Great.
So basically, that's Microsoft laying out their vision for a smart city. And we thought it was horrific as an idea that we could live in a world that's like that, as automated and as shiny as that. And so Playable City is basically us saying, actually, we don't want to live in a future like that. We want to live in a future that's playable and messy and open, and where people and hospitality and openness are the things at the centre of what we're trying to say and what we're trying to be. We think that the future should be a place where our residents and visitors are able to play and reconfigure places and stories. And we also think that, like, whereas a smart city seems about rebuilding quite a lot of infrastructure, we think that we should be able to reuse the city's infrastructure that's already there and build on it to animate a city itself and to connect citizens to their own city and each other in really surprising and challenging and entertaining ways.
We've got an example really. Do you want to copy it?
Oh yeah, the traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing we always kind of make reference to.
Should I do it?
One of the things we always make reference to is that there was a wonderful example of this sort of playable city mentality coming out of Bogota, in a South American country, I can't remember where the mayor of the city, I can never remember his name, he found that the city was so congested and people were so aggressive when they were driving around that, giving them fines and all sorts of kind of other sort of measures to calm traffic weren't working. So what they did was they employed people to be mimes on the street, and they embarrassed people who were driving badly or being aggressive, and it was a sort of ridicule that kind of calmed the city and traffic down and made them really think about what they were doing. This is just a wonderful example about how we can start making infrastructure playful, just very, very simply.
So if you click through some of the photos, I don't know if you're automatically doing that, but you can see the mimes of that, stop in the road. That's
the window,
stroking the window, calming people down.
Yeah, it's a more kind of a nice method of getting people like that. So that's a really nice example of what Purpose could be. Both Katherine and I then we both worked on a project called the CFA Playable City, where we we put together a cohort of artists and producers from CFA in Brazil, and we joined forces on some projects, and we went out there for 9 days and we built some amazing things really. And one of the projects we did build was something called Aquatic Pathways, which was, sorry, I'm just going to read a little bit here, which was, trying to put this on. Recife itself is a very, very congested city. It's extremely busy and there are so many cars on the road. And our hotel where we were staying, it took us 15 minutes to get in the morning, and in the evenings it took about an hour and a half to get home, and it's only about a 5-mile drive. So I mean, it's very, very congested and it's so dangerous, the roads. I mean, people were going through narrow little streets on motorbikes and between buses. It was absolutely chaos. So the Aquatic Pathway project, with this Playable City mentality, thought about using a different way of transporting people around the sea face. So there are a lot of rivers and a lot of little canals that go around the main city. And we wanted to try and raise awareness of these little taxis that were taken from one part of the sea face to another.
I might try and find a photo.
Yeah, there should be a photo. I think I'll put the photo on the presentation now. It's top one.
Ah, this one.
Yeah. So yeah, we essentially strapped more LEDs than you can shake a stick at to these boats in the middle of the sea with sharks all floating around, and they lit up, and they made a spectacle on the harbour side, and people could see them, and that was one part of the project. We just sent the link through to you now. But we also made an online interface where people could start supplying where they'd like to be picked up in these river taxis from. So it's a Google Maps that, as you click, it saved the coordinates and put it into a database, and then a big cluster of them, and it kind of showed where people wanted to be transported from and to. So it was a really nice way of kind of indicating to the authorities where these taxis could go from and to.
And what was really interesting about that is that, like, you were taking a problem of actually, we want to make the waterways safer and more easy to use, and applying quite a simple thing actually, like LEDs and a bit of paper thinking,
Car battery.
and a car battery
On water.
on water. Bit dangerous, if only minorly. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really great kind of project to be part of, and that's probably that project in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But we've got 2 or 3 other schemes with this sort of Play the City sprint in mind for Tokyo and Lagos, which we're currently in development with. So that's that.
Yeah. It's also.
Okay. Every year for the past 2 years, and this is our 3rd year of doing it, we open the call up from awards. So we suggest to people, come and tell us what you think Play the City is or could be. And we offer a substantial an amount of money and for them to come and make a project with us. So in our 1st year, we had what's called Hello Lamppost. Has anybody heard of Hello Lamppost? No?
No.
No? Hello Lamppost was one of our Play the City projects where people could text the city furniture and have conversations with it. And it's been out in Austin, it's going out to Tokyo next week, but it allowed you to have conversations with, post boxes, cranes, you name it. Every single type of furniture in Bristol, it allowed you to have a conversation with. And the 2nd year we ran it, last year, was a project called Shadowing, which was by 2 boys, one from America and one from Italy, who both met Treviso in Italy. So it's kind of a weird across the world experience, but it gave memory to streetlights.
You don't need to play a video. It's just sort of showing you that you could text the lamppost, and it would then reply, and it would also very simply learn what the previous person that had texted that lamppost would say. I've not made any sense there.
It gave light to it, so it took what people said previously and then made a story out of it. So it would ask you, for instance, what's behind me?
Do you want to play the video really?
We're just going to play a bit, yeah. Great. When's it coming to Bangor?
Wow, it's in Austin at the minute, right? It's in Austin, it's in Texas, it's going to Tokyo.
Yeah.
So it could come to Bangor if people want to commission it. They can. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
What was that?
Shari Llewellyn from Pontio said, how much does it cost?
It's very reasonable.
Okay, we'll do deals later.
So our 2nd year, the 2nd album, as we said, was a
A difficult 2nd album.
It was a project called Shadowing, and Shadowing, in a similar sort of vein, it gave memory to streetlights. So we've got a video I think we've just sent through. And it's probably better for you to see it rather than me trying to explain
it.
But yeah, this is the second Playable City Award.
And we've just finished shortlisting from 198 applications that came through for this year, so
It's getting done.
Shadowing is an interactive installation that lives in 8 streetlights in Bristol. In its most poetic form, it creates pools of memory on the street, essentially compressing time in a single space. And what that means is that people can walk underneath these streetlights and the shadow is recorded and then played back for the next person to walk through in that same space.
Seemed the perfect solution for bringing something into the street without making the mechanism or the art the focus, but purely, the experience on the street.
The sort of grounding idea for shadowing was that it would enable communication between people who live in the same space, walk the same streets, but not at the same time.
We wanted this to very much be a pervasive thing within the city, and the way we've laid shadowing out in many locations around Bristol, we think we're embracing that idea of allowing art to be part of the city.
It's been really interesting to see how quickly people understand how to use it, how much fun people have had, and how often it's been used. For example, when we were setting up the lamppost, we turned it on, kids came by to ask us what was going on. We just told them to walk through, and immediately they understood what was going on, and were playing with it until we left.
Where technology is often used to perhaps drive us in different directions on our sort of isolated path, we very much wanted to use it to actually stop people for a moment and make people look at this same old street in a different way, or think about the person walking up ahead of them, or the people that will come before them, and have these really meaningful experiences.
They want that one as well.
okay, touring, very reasonable.
That is actually the design museum currently for Design of the Year Awards. The boys were nominated for the Design of the Year, the digital category. So we're up against Monument Valley and some other amazing digital products.
David's being very modest. He did a lot of work on this as well.
So that's a kind of really good example of what Playable and technology and the Playable City project is about, really. And Katherine kind of wants to give one statistic about it.
Oh, it was just like quite anecdotally, like there was quite a lot of, by placing them in the city, it reduced crime and made the areas safer because people weren't thinking about robbing you when you could be playing with a shadow. And there was
an area of Bristol which was notorious for having street crime.
being a little bit dodge.
But one of the most beautiful things that happened apart from that was in the same location that we were able to see very, very briefly things that were going on. We had little recorded GIFs back from the units. We could just see what people were doing very abstractly. Not faces, not details, just an outline of them. And there was a couple that must have stayed in the shadow for about 30 seconds to a minute just dancing underneath it. It was absolutely beautiful, and it's one of the kind of a highlight of the career, really.
I quite liked David when those gifts were coming in. He used to have to literally debug them because obviously sometimes moths would come which are attracted to the light would and the heat would come and fly underneath and make their own little shadowing installations. And so when we were getting the data back, we had to literally debug the data.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
How are we doing for time? I forgot to.
You've done 38 minutes and 15 seconds. So you know, there's probably another 5 minutes, and then probably see if there's any questions from people.
So
Or you know, when you're ready, we can move to questions as well.
So I could give you, because you asked me to talk about, how digital can be used to enhance your business. And so I thought I'd give you a case study from one of our React projects, which was by an artist collective called Circumstance. I'm just going to hit you up with this. And I don't want you to watch another video, because I know that's a bit boring, but it might actually be really useful for you too. So it's maybe just watch a bit of it to get the flavour, and then I can tell you a bit about it. But this was one of our React-funded projects that was a collaboration between Circumstance and Tom Aber from UE. So. Really long idem.
I'm Tom Aber. My role in this project is the academic partner, so I'm really bringing 10 years of research into narrative theory and how story works on digital platforms.
I'm Duncan Speakman, and I'm the director of Circumstance, and we're one of the co-creators of These Pages Fall Like Ash.
These Pages Fall Like Ash is a story told across 2 books. One is a beautiful crafted physical object. The other book, if we can call it a book, is digital text hidden on hard drives across the city you live in. The way we've described it is 2 cities, each overlapping the other, streets that border 2 worlds, 2 people who can no longer remember the other's existence, and that over a 2.5-week experiential story, our readers will come to know the characters we've created, come to know this other city that is existing alongside their own, and come to realise what impact that has on their lives, and hopefully make them see their own city a little differently. You'll start with a physical notebook, actually 2 physical notebooks bound inside a wooden case. One notebook is a guide to this other city, one notebook is a partly unwritten guide to your own city. Those notebooks have a map in them, and you'll go from that map to find real locations across Bristol. And those locations exist in both worlds. And what you'll do within that is you'll use your smartphone, your tablet, or your laptop to log into local networks, local offline wireless networks, and you'll find digital content. And that digital content will be the chapters of a story. Together they'll form your guide to a story you'll experience as you work your way through it.
It became an experiment in how can we make something that isn't just 2 projects around one book, or it's a kind of digital book and a physical book, but how do we make something where one is dependent on the other, and you can't have one without the other?
We had creative consultancy from Nick Harkaway and Neil Gaiman. They essentially took our outline, rewrote
Sorry,
it,
Catherine,
made
did you
it
want
better,
to?
Yeah.
and then gave it back to us.
Yeah.
That's all available on the React website if you want to go and have a little and watch that in full. So it is a lovely video. But I just thought I'd give you like a flavour of, I'm not sure where you got to in the video, but it gives you a flavour of what the project was, which was really successful. It was a story told around one city over 2 weeks and across 2 different platforms, and we were really pleased that, you know, These Pages Fall Like Ash, it sold out within like 2 days at an average price of £12 per ticket, which was sort of quite low pricing because we were sort of, you know, it's our R&D. Reflected the early stage of the work, and it achieved a lot of really good press coverage. We awarded it 50 grand as part of a books and print sandbox, and you know, the output of the project was never realistically going to be a product or a service. You know, it was a really vague, idealistic idea driven by artistic vision. It wasn't, hey, we want to build this service, but we were really interested by that. And we were really convinced of the the contribution that the team would bring to the cohort. So this project was funded as part of 6 projects that were exploring the idea of books and print. We loved both of their academic and their creative work. If you've not had a chance to go and look at Duncan Speakman's work and Circumstance, you really should. It's incredibly beautiful work. And they were also partnered with really great writers on the project. So they had Neil Gaiman as one of the writers and Nick Harkaway as well. And so we took a bit of a risk in funding them, trusting in our conviction that brilliant people and beautiful work, you know, if you bring interesting and diverse people together, then beautiful work will be an output of that. They'll make great things happen. So that piece of work was a development of this, which is Short Films for You, which was one of their ideas. And this was that, you can see it's got headphones attached. It's just really hard to show. I don't know why. And at the back, it's got an MP3 player, and it's a really basic prototype, but was sort of it was like different installation, different experiences that you could do. Thanks, David. As part of your day-to-day life by carrying this book around. There's like audio walks. There's like really fun things with magnifying glasses that you would see, and each of them was a different creative experience that you could do. And so these pages fall like ash. You should actually come to Watershed and look at this rather than me doing it over. So these pages fall like ash, thank you, was a development of that idea, and they were really interested in actually how as a theatre company can we make something that will become a sustainable source of income for us. So how can we do something slightly different to the work that we normally do to rethink our business model? And so as a result of that, of our funding, they got 25k of growth funding from Innovation for Growth funding, and they also got business development support from Arts Council. Tom Aber, who is the academic, became part of Circumstance, so joined the board of Circumstance. And they're now talking to Hachette.
I think that's about right, yeah.
So they're now talking to, they've got a literary agent, and they're talking to a number of major publishing houses about financing the first 2 editions of making this into a product. And so, yeah, it's just one of those case studies of something that came from a really blurry creative idea and turned into a potential business for the creative team as a result of spending a bit of time and thinking about business development as they were making the work. So there's that one. I've got other case studies, but I'm going to skip over it for time.
Yeah, great.
So we've got 5 takeaways for you guys, which we're going to take in turns, like we're on like some sort of game show.
Yeah, so the first one really is just, if you're using technology, don't put it in as an add-on. It is definitely not an add-on. It's an important part of what you're doing, and you shouldn't add technology to a production performance or a business strategy just because you can. That's a big no-no as far as it goes. There needs to be a meaning and niche, a sort of area where it's got some context and some contextual background. I think that's quite a big one to go for, and just make sure you've worked it in.
It's also fine to have no digital.
Yeah,
your digital strategy can be no digital. That's digital strategy for some projects.
And binary.
That's fine. Go with that sometimes. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So my one was, have in mind the final audience for what you're making, and if you can in any way, and this is the same when you're making like any type of work, but particularly with digital, like if possible, use your audience and work with your audience during the making process. So, for example, when we did the Play Sandbox, we had the 12 young people who were disruptive and wonderful, you know, and they helped collaborate. They worked with the projects to develop their ideas, and then tested and broke, which is most important, all of their prototypes.
Next one really is kind of seek out collaborators who are different from your own practice. Work with them. It's a really great way of learning, different practice, different methods of practice, and just to kind of give you a bit more innovation, and just it keeps your mind fresh and just gives you so much more perspective on how things work in the real world.
think about business goals during the making process. So like it's okay every so often to step away from what you're making and have a conversation about like how it could be scaled, or if you want it to be a product, how it's going to be manufactured, what the audience will be, how you want to describe the project. I think regularly pitching your project, even when you don't know what it is a really useful and powerful tool. So going, oh, today I'm making blah, 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 is really good, because even if it changes each time, it's a really great way of focusing your mind on what you're trying to do.
And the last one, the most important one, is celebrate digital technology and digital work, because that's what it's there to be done. It's one of the main ethoses Watershed has, is, you know, be celebratory of what you're doing.
And be playful.
Be playful, very playful.
And so in the analog meets digital world, this is us